Hey there, folks. I want to talk to you guys today about real-time monitoring. In the water and wastewater world, we are always monitoring things like chlorine levels and pump run times and tank levels and how much electricity do we use. All of these things are easily monitored with today's digital systems and little digital sensors. A lot of times the sensors that we're talking about are extremely cheap. One of my favorites is a little sensor from Dwyer. It's got a 1/4 inch NPT threads on it. You screw it into a line, say you've got a pump running and you want to know what the pump is creating pressure wise. You can come off of one of the ports in your pump with a 1/4 inch nipple and an elbow or maybe a T. I like to run a T, and then I have a pressure gauge and my little Dwyer sensor hooked up. And then you can look at real time, make sure that your Dwyer sensor is operating, within the range you expect. None of this stuff is going to be perfect. I mean, you can drive yourself nuts trying to dial it in, but if I'm looking at pump curves and I want to know, is this pump running at 100 psi under a certain set of conditions, or is it running at 20 psi? Knowing that it's exactly at, 22.5 psi is not as important to me as knowing that I'm close to 20. Under these other set of conditions, we might be at closer to 100 or maybe 50. And so that little Dwyer sensor can give you real-time information that's recordable and easy to wrap your brain around, and it's not hard to set up. I've used several different SCADA systems over the years. There are pros and cons. Personally, I really like Mission. I've used them on several applications because they're user-friendly, but then there are concerns about having your SCADA system tied to the internet because, there's a potential there for bad actors to get in and mess around with your information. And so depending on your situation, maybe a sandbox system makes more sense where it's not tied to the internet. It's a standalone system. But regardless, hooking up these sensors and getting real-time information on your equipment is game changing. When I first started running water and wastewater systems, almost everyone, you'd go out in the morning and you'd pull chlorine samples on your system to make sure that you were within the ranges you needed to be. You had good chlorine residuals throughout your system. You'd check your tank levels. You'd go around and make sure that your pumps were kicking on and kicking off, cycling like they're supposed to. The thing is that every morning you go out and I'm going to go and check my system. I'm going to go pull these chlorine samples. Well, you're getting to work at, say, 6 o'clock in the morning. You're getting your stuff together. Maybe 6:30, you're checking your first site. And 6:45, you're checking your next site. 7 o'clock, you're checking the next site. And you do that for a couple of months, and their numbers always look the same or real close. They, fluctuate some, but you're real close. Then you put in real-time monitoring. You have chlorine analyzers in the system. And yes, some sensors are going to cost more than others, granted. But you'd be surprised at how cheap some of this stuff is based off of what you're getting out of it. A little chlorine analyzer might cost you $500. But to constantly know, and when I say in real time, a lot of these systems might update every 2 minutes. So, it's 1,440 minutes in a day. So you cut that in half and you've got 720 data points throughout a 24-hour period. Suddenly it paints a whole new picture. Because if you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, you check that level every day and, hey, I've got good chlorine residue. Well, at 6 o'clock in the morning, everyone's getting up and getting ready for school and getting ready for work, and people are taking showers and making breakfast and getting ready to start their day. You got a lot of water moving through the system. So naturally, if you got a lot of water moving, your chlorine feed rates are based off of what the system is doing. If your pumps are running, you're moving chlorine. The pumps turn off, the chlorine's not pulling. And so you look at it at 6 in the morning and you think, yeah, I've got good chlorine residual. I'm great. What you don't see as at 10 o'clock in the morning, everyone's left. Everyone's gone off to school. Everyone's gone off to work. The tanks get full, the pumps turn off, and your chlorine residual starts to drop. And it'll drop for a little while until your tank levels get low, the pumps kick back on, and your chlorine rates will spike up again. And you start to see your chlorine rates doing peaks and valleys throughout the day. Now, are the peaks too high? Are you feeding too much chlorine? Are the valleys too low? Are you not feeding enough? Going back to that little Dwyer sensor I was talking about, you start looking at multiple pump stations, and you've got pumps that are running, making 300 gallons a minute at, say, 60 psi. And then you've got one pump that's running at 100 psi. Why is that? Is there a blockage? Is there something wrong? Or you've got a pump that is ramping up and running real hard and it's only making 20 psi. Maybe you've got a problem with your impellers worn. There's a lot of information you can get from some relatively cheap sensors. And if you're tracking it in real time, more data means you can make better decisions. You can start looking at little vibration analysis tools that'll let you know that this motor and pump assembly has got some vibration. Now you're supposed to, you spend enough time around your pumps and equipment and you'll hear a tone change. You walk in the room and it's always going, and then you walk in one day and it's going, that's odd. Why does that sound like that? But your little vibration sensors, they can pick up vibrations before you'll hear it. So your pump might have been starting to decline for 4 or 5 days, maybe a week before it really started making any racket. You could have caught that problem earlier with some vibration analysis. And again, a lot of times those sensors are not real expensive. Now, for me, like at Barrett's house, yeah, $1,000 sensor is, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But if you're running a big organization and you've got, several pieces of equipment out there that are very expensive pieces of equipment, nothing in the water and wastewater field or really in any industrial environment, none of that stuff is cheap. It's all, you're talking about an $8,000 pump. Well, $1,000 vibration sensor that could save that $8,000 pump from catastrophic failure, man, that's cheap insurance. And that's the way that as a maintenance tech, you want to look at your equipment. No, you don't want to spend money that's not needed. But if you can spend a little bit of money to save a lot of money, then you're helping yourself out. If you can spend a little bit of money on a alignment jig, and they've got several alignment tools out there. You can go with an old dial indicator and some rulers, and you can do it manual. There's nothing wrong with that. You can buy a really expensive laser rig that'll let you dial it in to hundreds of a thousandth of an inch. And they've got stuff in between that use proximity sensors. And so you'll have a metal bar attached to the coupling on the shaft. And as you rotate it side to side, that metal bar will move and the little proximity sensors can read it. That setup's about $300 versus the laser rig, which is going to be, I don't know, $6 or $8 grand. But again, that little proximity sensor setup will get you a lot closer. I'm not going to say that. If you know what you're doing with a dial indicator, doing it the old manual way, you can do amazing things. And some of the old guys that were really good at that stuff, I'd trust them as much, if not more, than the laser rig. But if you're starting out and you don't have one of those old timers around to teach you that stuff, then that little proximity sensor setup I'm talking about for $300 or $400 will get you real close. It'll get you close enough that you run that piece of equipment and be confident that it's not going to fail. You know, and again, if you have that thing and you've got it hooked up to a computer, you're doing your alignment and the system will print out a report that you'll have to reference next time. Hey, we hit this data point and this data point and this data point. This was a little off, so we had to reset and adjust, and then ran it the second time, and we got the 3 data points within the range we're looking for. And so 6 months from now, you can go back and look at that report, have an idea of, all right, this is where we were back then. Now here we are 6 months later. Has it shifted? Has it moved? Our vibration analysis is showing that we're still good. We're not getting bad vibration. But you run it and you see that, you know what, we're a little bit out from where we started. Maybe we do a readjust to keep it nice and true so that it doesn't set up some bad vibration and start getting worse and worse. And again, you spent, $300 on this setup and a couple of hours of your time, and now you've got, $500-600 into preventative maintenance that saved that $8,000 piece of equipment. Just my thoughts. I love problem solving. I love looking at ways to figure out solutions around common problems. If any of you guys have something you're bumped up against and you're having trouble with it, I cannot promise you that I can help you fix it, but I'm happy to listen to it and talk you through it, and maybe we can come up with a solution. Hit me up. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Love you. God bless. And remember, like and subscribe.